What a year, really. If someone told me 10 years ago that this would be my life, I wouldn't have believed him. So much has happened and so many new firsts. 2023 was the year I met my now girlfriend, moved in with her and moved to Las Palmas. I met her parents for the first time and she also got to meet my family for the first time. It was the first time I went as a couple and a +1 to a wedding, and it was also the year where I went the first time to South America, to Colombia and Medellin to be specific.
I bring around 20,000 euros of gear with me on this trip.
A place which was once one of the most dangerous places in the world and reigned by mafia cartels. This was especially weird, because while I was in the Amazon jungle filming and doing ayahuasca ceremonies, being literally weeks gone, shooting interviews with Colombian cocaine farmers in the middle of nowhere, Jess was sitting on the beach and was worried sick that I didn't answer much. This was also the second time in our short relationship that we were not just weeks and continents, but also multiple time zones apart. The production in Colombia was also one of the biggest and also one of the only bigger productions for me in 2023. It felt like the whole industry went belly up this year. 3 major clients that we worked with for years and made the lion's share of our revenue, cut their budgets and us out as a result. We saw this to some extent coming, as the trend became more and more towards short-form platforms already. And you simply don't need such a big crew and gear to shoot this kind of stuff. On the other hand, I was also not so super sad about it, as I had already a personal tendency that I'm not going to do this for that much longer. Mainly because I'm going strong towards 40 and I don't want to work 10 to 16 hours shooting days anymore. Colombia seemed then like this big final project for me. I mean, the pay was okay, but I was also taking a hefty price cut, as my usual day rate for over 4 weeks would have been broke in the bank for a simple YouTube production. But it was fine, as I also value other things, besides pesos and euros, namely experience. Especially for things that you can't buy or put a price tag on, but that only can be made. And as you maybe know, I value experience quite high. To be honest, I probably never would have went on my own to Colombia, or for that, to a Colombian child prison, or to do ayahuasca with some indigenous shamans, not only once, but twice. Really one of the most disgusting and awful experiences, not just this year, but overall. But also one of the most wonderful experiences I ever got to make. Vomiting, being confronted with your own death and facing your biggest fears and pain points. It is terrifying at first, but once you let go, there is this feeling of freedom and relief, of just ease and peace, and a deep sense it's just gonna be fine. The world will move on just fine even without you in it. It's a very philosophical and profound insight, especially when made within the deepest of the Amazon rainforest and accompanied by some indigenous folk music. And definitely would have never ever been to a Colombian cocaine farm. To be honest, I don't know any other single person. We are talking serious Escobar territory. Several hours of flights and hour-long drives to arrive at the root production. I really like Vice meets Netflix documentary, but only free on YouTube for a million audience. 2020 I started in Thailand to try some more remote working for the first time. Later then in Portugal and then in Spain. And also at the end of 2022 in Bali, where I also met Jess. To be now with her here once again in Las Palmas. But there's actually one thing that not many people talk about. And that's that it's still scary, at least for me it is. To change direction at an older age, taking the next unsure steps in that somewhat career of mine. It really feels like giving up, declining and moving on from 5+ years of physical video production, building and buying tens of thousands of gear, learning and failing and becoming a freelancer and evolving it into a company. I don't want to miss it, but those were some of the best times in my life. And I remember saying it back out loud for the first time in a client meeting. It is something totally different when it's just an idea in your head. But as a freelancer, you speak in facts, and clients stop reaching out because you are simply not available anymore. But I got them busy in Las Palmas, building a new studio, switching my co-working office from Berlin to Las Palmas, moved in with Jess, and also produced my very first online course, which took me way longer than I expected. I estimated it would take me around 2 weeks, but ended up taking me 6 months. And sold exactly 1. So my quest in transitioning from actually creating and producing content for others on set to do it now with others, showing and teaching them from my decade of experience, was a bit of a rocky start. So yes, the old business model shrunk by almost 80%. There is some first income with the new one, but it still needs some more time, tries, failures and adjustments in order to win and succeed sustainably. I also don't want to make the same mistake again, to just go for something that's easy and just because someone else said it, or just jump after something without any real consideration and any second thought. Because I tend to overly estimate myself and underestimate the time and the lack of skills you need to develop in order for this to work. So this was also the year for me where I wanted to focus and prioritize my mental well-being more. May it be yoga, meditation or simple swimming. I'm really happy that I found a partner in Jess who also values the same. Another big project that happened was that we were looking for a property to buy. And this was probably one of the most stressful times as well. As we went from just, okay, let's have a look, to signing bank loans in less than 2 months. We actually found a hell of an amazing place, 100 square meter rooftop, perfect apartment, but still lots of renovating to do. So we went then to the agent's office, went to the bank, made an offer, got a lawyer, went to Home Depot to check out prices and materials, reaching out to contractors and construction companies, surveyors, etc. pp. In the end, we couldn't get the loan in Spain, as we were basically nobodies here. But my German house bank was kind enough to give me one, which I signed then later on. It's just crazy. I mean, I made already 3D models, planning new walls, windows, pipes and where what needs to happen in order to really budget this whole thing together. Getting really excited, but also a bit worried this would mean pouring all our savings into it. And doing all of this only with a half knowledge of how this would go. And having at least some second doubts and thoughts about this whole project. Mainly about all the unknown unknowns, like what is about the wet walls downstairs? Will they become an issue later on and cost us a freaking fortune to fix? In the end, we really had to make one of the toughest decisions so far, as it's actually harder to go through all the hoops, already paying a lawyer and signing a loan, literally greenlighting everything, and then on the last corner say stop and hit the brakes instead of the gas pedal, of what could have been the deal of a lifetime. But 3 things made us reconsider. One was the actual price point, with all the work that needed to be done. Second, the time and effort it actually takes to redo an apartment. And I calculated roughly 3 months. Now I guess way too overpromising. Considering new walls, new windows, new pipes, and in Germany we call it Kernsanierung, basically everything new from top to bottom. So yeah, probably a bit overambitious, as it takes maybe in reality 6 months, and by the law of 13x, maybe up to a year, including all the Spanish bureaucracy and finding suitable personnel, material and labor. I guess the 2 other parts could have been managed somehow. But the third fact was them putting the final nail into our coffin. And that was the fact that they sold the whole house. And we couldn't make any sense of this chamber hall that was the downstairs apartment. But apparently Spanish people don't care as much. And the Polish guy who wanted to buy it wanted to turn it into a hostel, co-living kind of place. From a business perspective, really great. I was then just glad that we met up with the guy before we signed the papers, as we both don't want to live on top of a noisy hostel. So we decided against it, despite all the hardship, stress, time and effort we put into it. To be honest, I still don't know if it was the right choice, but it is what it is. But we weren't useless nevertheless. Spending July then renovating and rebuilding my van, as we decided to drive my old bus down to Gran Canaria, in order to not always need to rent a car here, and also to be more flexible and mobile, able to take some weekend vacations and explore the other islands. The so-called renovation took us 2 weeks, but crammed into 1. So 8 days of night shifts and day shifts, really until midnight every time, is now done. The van, the shelf is in, the AC is in. Let's see if it works. The cooling box. It goes up to the cabin here. Electricity, solar panels on the roof. Now it's only time to go to Spain. I drove then from Berlin down to Paris, where I picked up Jess. Then we went further south, driving all the coastline of Spain, visiting some amazing sites, but also showing us where the real heatwave is. We ended the trip with the most southern point of Europe, at the Strait of Gibraltar, followed by a hellish 34-hour ferry ride across Atlantic. Would I do it again? Jein. The nature and cities are gorgeous, but probably not around August without any AC in the car. The rest of the year was working, trying and adjusting our daily life in Las Palmas, taking some first Spanish lessons and slowly building a social network. but also still figuring ourselves out with Jess. As everything was also new for her. New country, new place, new partner, and a new job that she started in April. So there was still so much going on. Towards the end of the year, Jess was spending Christmas in London, and I was back in Germany, only to fly later out to join her and her extended family for New Year's in the France Alps. That included me, also meeting her extended 30 plus people family for the first time. But it was actually quite pretty nice and everyone very warm and welcoming. And to wrap up, 2023 was crazy. Not just with the rise of AIs, but also in my personal life. Mainly, my mantra now for 2024 is not more, but less. And also to slow more down. As slow means more conscious, and more conscious means going further, happier. So, if I can leave you with one thing, then please take it slower. Time already runs so fast. Cheers.